In this episode, we're speaking to Kichi and her childhood friend Mavis about their childhood, their teenagers, and young women working and post-independent life.
They did it, and we had to copy. It's the same old music that we're dancing to.
You want to introduce Auntie Mavis to us and why you wanted to bring her to the conversation?
Okay. This is Mavis. Mavis Sunday. That's a maiden name. Anyway, Mavis and I was a baby, born 1954. We knew each other from crash. That's when we were about 4 or 5 years. And Mavis will tell you I was a bully, a serious bully. She will tell you about my bully days at Stoddart Hall, because their house is opposite Stoddart. This is how we started. And then we started from Zimbabwe together at school, primary essay together.
Nice to meet you, Auntie Mavis. So, Kichi, we're going to just circle back to what we discussed. What was it like having a child in your teenage years when you compare yourself to your peers and how your family reacted?
After I went back to school, and then when I came back from Malawi, I had done secretarial course. Mm-hmm. And by grace of God, I became the first Black secretary with Anglo-American. So my life with my peers went on.
The friends that you had that you're talking about, were they a support system? And can you just explain who Jethro is?
Okay.
Give him context.
Father of my son, my firstborn son. Yeah, you know, as a band player, he had so many girls and so many women were going all over. So whenever we start fights, we'll close that teen time. There won't be any disco. We'll close the whole Stoddart Hall when we start fighting. You two would jump on the stage, take my drums, throw them away, and it would be chaos. They were very loyal friends. The thing is, it was bad. I was the seventh born. So you can imagine that I had a child before my 3 sisters. Because the first one got married properly, she had a wedding, Mrs. Sisi Patricia Zimba, and then I had a child before my 2 elder sisters. It was bad, but they could not do anything because of the support system I had from my father. My mother was very angry. She even left. She went to Malawi saying, "You have embarrassed me, Antichrist," and so on and so on. She left. But when she went, her father was still alive, because her father was the first reverend ordained by the first missionaries, Reverend Job Ntara, the clan of the saint of Zongendaba. So he told her, "You have to go back. When I'm about to go to Jesus, so you go back." So my son was born too much, and my grandfather died on the 23rd of March. So he said, as soon as I have my baby, as soon as I go, you go back to your marriage. You married in church. Christine has got her own, something like, I have my own gomba. She has her own gomba. When we're buried, we judge different by God. And you must not do that. And later in life, you're going to see this same girl whom you have treated so badly, she will be the one to look after you. That is what my grandfather said. And then I stayed with my father from the time I was 3 months pregnant. My mother came when my son was 11 months. So we're tied with my father. You see?
When Christine went to Adulthood to stay with Jethro, when she was pregnant, Sekuru Chima, what was his first name?
Christopher.
Said, Mavis, what is Christine? Showed him where Christine was staying with Jethro. He came with me there, took Christine, let's go back home. You're not going to stay here with these boys.
You're going back to school.
These band boys. You are going back to school. She was taken back home. Then she delivered in March. March, yes.
In other families, was there pressure to, if you were pregnant and had a child out of wedlock, to marry?
Mavis was forced to marry. Christina was forced to marry. My father said, and my daughter's going back to school.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to look after the child which she's going to give birth to.
And Auntie Mavis,
You know
what with that, when you compare that you were forced to get married and you looked at your very close friend who didn't need to get married, what was that like for you?
I felt bad because I didn't like it. And you know what? This husband was 8 years older than me. I didn't understand much of what was going on. I felt bad. And I said to Christine, oh, you're very lucky. You've got a good father who is going to take you back to school. You're very lucky.
What was your background like or context?
My mother was from Zambia. My father was from Mozambique. Their parents were here.
So they don't even know the stages.
We don't. But my father remembers Mozambique because he used to go there with his brother. My mom used to go to Chipata, Zambia, but she was born here.
What was it like having being a single mother post-independence, or for you, Auntie Mavis, being married post-independence with a child?
My sisters thought it was too early for me because we didn't know even how to look after the child. Well, I was assisted by my sisters. You can do this, you can do this. Because we were staying with my father-in-law, there was no mother-in-law, she had passed on. So it was very difficult for me, but as time went by, we got to know how to look after children.
And so then now when 1980 happens, was there a difference of now, were you more confident as a mother? Was the economy a little bit better for you as a mother, Auntie Mavis?
It was much better than before. We were working. Christine got me a job from when she was working at Legal and Parliamentary Ministry of Justice.
Was there a feminist movement around that time with independence?
Since her husband was 8 years a senior, she found him very boring and left him. She went back to her mother's house with the 2 children.
And there was
she was working.
So. No, before I went to work, I was selling vegetables at Musika.
It was, for me, I think for us, I should say, we never saw it because we still had our lifestyle. We're still enjoying our lifestyle. Because don't forget, our group in Bari were the first numbers. We still could go to Skyline, Mshandra Pamwe, and then when independence came, they ended up now another job with the big guys, started opening up nightclubs in the city, like Playboy, Job or Night Sport, next to that. Stoddart Hall now, that time, they never allowed alcohol in Stoddart Hall. So they never allowed evening teen time. So all the teen time were during the day, my Saturday afternoons and Sunday. Even weddings. And then after that, we start thinking of going to Playboy. And then it was Zimbabwe Rhodesia first in 1979. That's where a lot of houses like Waterfalls, Africans were allowed to buy houses in Waterfalls. It was Zimbabwe Rhodesia. During Zorewa's time, we started now having good time. 1979, remember?
Yes.
Muzorewa started it, good time. I was the first Black secretary with Anglo-American, 1977. I came out in the Rhodesia Herald, and that time I was doing modeling. Talk to me. Life was beautiful. And the way I was, opened my account in the bank, everything. Came back, did what of an account? So whenever I got paid, would go into my account, my father, my mother would go to town, draw the money, buy groceries, they go. I never bothered. And I still had clothes coming from my sisters. She also tried to do modeling in Zambia, but now good trainer. So she used to dress so well. Life was just so good. Tantira Skano Barkuseza, going to Anglo-American, you know, Chipindam Charter House, says out to Garamu restaurant, Charter House, Nevarungu, and talk to me. Now, the danger came When I left, that's when my father, now I'm going to retire, he could not take it, you were looking after us and all that. Then I got a job with United Nations Institute for Namibia.
Mm.
You know, that current president in Namibia, Hegengo, was my boss. And this is where I knew a lot of people. Mind you, I did secretarial at the convent in Malawi, so my stenographer of that time, Nimananzu, trained properly.
Okay.
Then I came back 78 when my father died. Then I said, I have to look after my son.
Because that's the peak time of the war, isn't it?
Yes, but when we were living in Salisbury will not feel the war. You couldn't tell. You just hear stories. And my father was a politician in court. So Tagarataka Wakavura radio, Voice of Zimbabwe. The only thing Rhodesia Herald will produce is Magandangaura, you are Magandangaura. They will never put Kutukaura of Masoja. No. So we used to hear that Voice of Zimbabwe. Now was very anti-Muzorewa because he always say Magandangarukuya. Just like one of my friends late, she started working for Muzorewa as a secretary, but she had salary higher than me in Anglo-American. And then there was another opening to UNC. They said, no. Unokanganisa zitero kwa Chima. Ava masela utawa, mugabar kuya. You have to tear the Voice of Zimbabwe. So katika terera usiku so news yaitanga uma 9. But tema Mzorewa. Tete wait onaka. Don't wasiye. They believed in the armed struggle. That's the only party which will win. As for me, I believed it because my Chela's house when she was staying in Zambia, neighbor was Tongogara, my freedom fighters. And Richard and Churchill was deep in the ZANU-PF politics until Herbert Stepp was assassinated. That's when they stopped. Butiu then went to England, got himself a job with a Common Secretariat. Now, Zimbabwe Rhodesia now, when it started, that's when they said Lancaster. And we were all so excited. So this is where everybody was talking about the armed struggle was going to take over. And I was working now for University of Rhodesia in the political department. So being in the political department, all the politics was being discussed. 78, 79.
Do you remember where you were Independence Day?
Independence Day 18. We were there at Rufaro. Life was so good. We walked going to Contra Stadium to meet Robert Mugabe. After those, there were the 64 detainees who were arrested, who had gone against the group of Mugabe. They were arrested. So Margaret Thatcher was saying, Mugabe won't be allowed to enter here until he has those 64 detainees released. So that's when Obasanjo then was the president of Nigeria, said he was going to close up the shell petroleum of the British who were mining their oil, if they do that. So Margaret Thatcher had to allow. That's when Mugabe was coming to Contra Stadium. Hey, we walked to Eiffels. It was exciting. It was exciting. We were so happy. Happy.
Because you're talking about the armed struggle that was happening so far away, and you said that you didn't feel it in Salisbury. Did you feel like you were part of bringing independence? Did you think that you were part of the struggle?
When you are in Lusaka, you'd feel the armed struggle because they were being called freedom fighters. You'd see them on the television, they would have a program where they'll be talking nothing but bad about Rhodesia. Like this other person, I never saw him even 1980. He was very much intended to when you get to Malawi, when you get to Rhodesia, go and post this letter and things like that. I would post the letters, but you would hear them later being announced in Rhodesian news. He saw this Gandanga was here, wrote a letter to his family, not knowing these are the letters I used to post.
Did any major things change for you after independence?
Yes. That's when I bought That's when I bought a house in Neighbouring. So while I was in Neighbouring, since that's when I got a job, then I worked in the government. I was the secretary from Amsenda. He was Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. So that's when the government guarantees came. And then I applied, got a house in Neighbouring. Then when I got that mortgage, I was given because my salary could not match only 13,000, and this house was going for 17,000. So I bought it under deed of sale. So that's when I used to need my baby clothes sell to Harare Hospital. Then I was working for Harare Hospital, and I would type books. Long men used to have people who used to write books. So they used to give us to type for them. And I would type dissertations for people. I would, that time it was okay. I didn't realize it. I could sleep 2 to 3 hours. I hired a typewriter. Then Zondo had started going to St. Michael's. I had fees to pay. I had this house from Neighbouring, moved here. It was, as a single parent. I used to work. Chikuno, Chiruka, till 1 a.m. to Vepa pa typewriter. Tataka higher typewriter, step on my book. I never bothered with Bukuruji. What I wanted was mine. I used to type, no mistakes. You see, it was a time of opportunity in the sense that my secretaries do idea. But these guys from the war, they came with their own secretaries. It was open now. Zimbabwe Rhodesia opened for business. That's when we started now going up.
Blacks buying houses in Neighbouring.
I started staying in Neighbouring. Then after Neighbouring, that's when I bought this house. That time, most of the neighbors who were white, they had to cooperate. They could not show their racism. Then when I bought this house now, I was the only black. They all bought the 2 roads opposite. There was the one on number 6. He was very friendly, the white man, because I was very petite. So he thought maybe the house is for somebody. Not know it was my house. I was very petite.
As much as your immediate neighbors were welcoming, did you ever experience racism in the local shopping center, or when you were walking over to your sister's house, or when you were going to work? Did you ever experience blatant racism?
That time it was difficult because the whites were also very scared
of blacks.
Because my comrades actually were so vocal, and some of them started staying in this neighborhood, and that's when we started unstable internet food. Then that's when we started doing Jesano, and it was difficult for them.
How did Mbare change? How did your home village or the home city, the ghetto, change?
It changed a bit, but most of the people were supporting ZANU-PF. So we were afraid, most of us were afraid of these comrades. They were coming, bullying, saying we went to war and you are just seated there doing nothing, reading. But it wasn't very difficult. It wasn't. But these days, comparing with that time, it's very difficult now. We used to go to work, so most of the time we didn't notice anything, a very bad change from before.
When did you start feeling the change? What year? In the 80s, in the 90s? When did it start to change in Bari?
The 90s. Most of the industries were closing down. And then when time went by, it was changing a bit. We were getting used to the situation now, because most of the guys were not bullying around. They were saying, we went to war, we went to war. But some of these people in Bari, they don't care about that. They don't give a damn.
So we've all heard you ran for parliament. Can you tell us a little bit about that time in your life and what happened?
Yes, 1995. That time I was very staunch ZANU PF. So I decided to be a member of parliament. So I went to stand in Bari, my village. The problem, I was doing very well. That time it was before MDC. All these Mavis and them were going to vote, but it was primary election. It's only those in ZANU PF who votes for primary election. But general election, I would have won pens down. But the disadvantage was there were 4 men and myself. During the time, like the primary election, the date was like on a Saturday. Wednesday, I was doing very well, but Wednesday, 3 days before, my big campaigners, the youth, she spent the night at Monomtapa Hotel. The next thing, she came out, she did not want me anymore. She went with a youth because she slept at she was taken to Monomtapa. Imagine coming from Monomtapa, from Mbari, having to sleep in Monomtapa, have breakfast there. She changed her mind. 1, 2. The other lady was taken in the Jameson Hotel. Remember, that was the end. And I didn't know that they were bribing the police, but it was too late. This is what happened during my campaign. I didn't get to say, but you tried your best. You tried. You remember? Yes.
Did you ever consider running for the general election after this?
I could not, because that was, I would have stood as an independent. Politburo would have said, Ukangomela as an independent, kicked out from the party.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how women related to each other and how they interacted with each other in the 70s.
As far as I'm concerned, for me as an individual with Mavis here, the support system of women is very, very strong until to date. For example, if there is a funeral, even to date, the funeral is in Bari, I still go when I'm told. And it has not changed because this is what our mothers used to do. We have taken over.
Did you see the way that men and women related to each other change over that same period of time? And have you seen those relationships and power structures evolve?
The thing which has happened, which is there, you know, like in Mbari people, because there was no, that's why I told you the first that Mbari, there was socialism in Mbari, which has passed on. Because if you see the funerals in Mbari, you find all those people who have made it in life, they come to Mbari for the funerals. They still support.
The relationship, like in the 70s, relationships which you are talking about, from 70s, 80s, 90s, it was stronger than the relationships which are now in 2000 and since 2001 until now. Some have left the country because of the economy. Some people, most of our friends passed on. We went to school, we were so many girls, but now, if you ask for someone else, they say, oh, she passed on, oh, she's passed on. Most of our friends passed on. So I think that's why the relationships now are not stronger than the last past years.
What were your relationships like with men in the 70s, 80s, and 90s compared to now? And then maybe another question is, because Auntie Mavis got married and Kichi, you never got married, was there ever a difference in your relationship with men because one was married and one wasn't?
No. There was too much Chigurizano, there was too much unity. You know, we used to go to show. When Zakuma 5, the big boys would start collecting us, whether they know you or not. Mabunu, and be holding each other hands like this. The big boys will be behind us, taking us, and they will not leave. If they find that this one has Wakumbare Fields, they start looking for the guys who are fields. Kututoro in Fields, uyu ndokukambuzuma, uyu ndokumabvuku, isukana nokumbari. And like the big boys like we are Satana way. I was with Satana. I've got to catch you in them seconds. House with Sarah and Tay.
If you are married to a good guy who understands, there's no way you can say you are not going to play around with your old friend because she's not married. No. My husband was good, even this one which I'm living with.
She's married a younger boy. Mavis is married for a second time with a younger boy.
Christian says, hey, Mavis, can you come to my place? I tell him, I'm going to Greendale. Do you mind? He said, you can go. She's your long life friend. But there are some people who have got husbands who don't like those single mothers. They know she's your friend for some time, but they don't want you to associate with your friends because they think maybe she will give you another boyfriend.
Yeah.
But I'm not with my husband. When Christian says, happy birthday, Mavis, on my birthday.
Are you listening?
Mm-hmm.
We start to talk about our good old days when we were called cool kids, walking from swimming. We used to wear mini skirts. So when I was wearing my mini skirt, my yellow skirt, I used to borrow yellow boots from Christian.
Cool kids.
Cool kids.
We're cool kids.
We were very smart ladies.
Elizabeth Chikaviri was the first Miss Salisbury. Then the next, it was me.
Oh, you competed?
Mrs.
Harare
first.
Mrs. Harare.
So you competed in a beauty pageant?
Yes. And I was Miss Harare.
What was when
Miss Salisbury.
When Elizabeth had
gone to England?
All right. Because she was the one who was
taking all the time in Salisbury in town.
When she went to England, Christine joined the pageant.
I was very petite, Rungano.
She had a good body.
Who ran the pageant? Was it a pageant only of black contestants? Was it a mix?
It was with white people. It was competing with white people. I was very sporty.
We did all sorts of sports.
And now the problem was, since I was a bully, and Beauty was a bully. So when we go to a team match called, let's say Shingra is coming to come to Josta. Shingra are coming to play with us. So look, would have known kuti ningi do not bona kutamba. So put Beauty. Beauty will go to them kuti anongo kutamba chete muno muturu kuburova. So that they start talking to the team. Good day, did my period wait. Hey, Musoro wangu. So that our team wins.
What made our friendship strong, Christine? We fought. There's a day when some of the girls said, "Yeah, go and fight, go and fight." Chris said, "Let's go and fight. I'll beat you up." And I said, "You won't beat me up. You win." Very best friends.
Are you sure you weren't bullied into a friendship, Auntie Mavis?
Was it standard 5?
10, 11. We 10, 11 years.
10, 11, we were still very young.
And then people like Auxilia, Gogo, they were not violent. So they used to pay me. I used to have people who used to come and pay protection fee. And somebody wants to beat them up. They'll come to me. And I used to have my brother who used to teach me how to fight. Kick, judo, kick. That's why even today, kickboxing, I'm very good. I was coming from the gym. I was going to see my brother-in-law from Malawi, Sisimi's husband. Then I was in 2nd Street in Union Avenue.
Okay.
I was wearing gold chains. The thieves came to take my gold chain. I thought it was a friend. There were 3 guys. Sure, I fought them. I fought one. I gave him one kick. The knife went, and I went for the one who was holding my chain. Like Amita Tarzan. I jumped on him. He fell down. I took my chain. I beat him up. I didn't know the reporters were there. It was on a Friday. Saturday, newspaper. Sunday, newspaper. A thief caught by a woman, beaten up. And I took my chain. And I went for him like that. But he didn't know these villagers. They thought they can control me in Harare when I'm in Harare. Hey.
And your grandma used to follow us to school. Christina is fighting, Mama. She used to come, Mavis. There's a time when we were in class. Our teacher was Mrs. Westerforth. I was with Christine in that same class. And we were making noise. When she came in, if you could see, quiet. Then she asked, who was making all that noise? Everybody kept quiet. But Christine stood up. She was very bully and selfish and stubborn. She stood up and Mrs. Westerforth, who is that? Said, I'm Christina Chima, lifting a collar. Anyway.
And then anyone who's laughed, my friends told me,
I'm even going now. Christina,
we are catchy.
So just as a transition, so you were at Anglo-American, just wanted to find out, from Anglo-American to becoming into public relations consultant or the work that you're doing, what was the transition of going from a secretary to
Anglo-American was the secretary in the public relations department. This is how I had a passion in PR. Then when I left Anglo-American, I went back to Zambia. That's when I was working for United Nations Institute of Namibia. Then when my father died in August, I came back. When I came, that support system, which the other, your friend said, and I'm Mavis and them, they were already at the funeral all the day, sleeping there. He was lovely.
Lovely. Loved Christine more than other children. She took after her dad.
First, I was at the university, at the campus, then I went to the medical department. My career at the back of my mind, I wanted PR, but then PR was not yet understood.
Public relations.
Public relations was not yet understood in most of the companies. It was always like the big giant companies like Anglo-American. Those are the ones who had, and they used the PR more as lobbyists, especially during independence, to lobby, because they were the ones who were doing sanction passing for Ian Smith to survive and all that. Then I have this other friend of mine, we went to school together, but she was very quiet. She's the one, she was also a secretary in the Ministry of Finance. And I was a secretary to Mzee, Vice President of Zimbabwe. Then she says, Kichi, we have to change. The young girls are coming. Let's leave these positions. And then I said, me, I'm going for PR. That's when I started studying PR at commercial careers. That's how we left. Good young girls are coming. Then I went to work for the Ministry of Justice as a personal officer. So as a personal officer, that's when I started recruiting guys from Bari. When I was at the University of Rhodesia, I recruited a lot of Zimbabwe Bari guys to come and work. The Mbariism was always with me. Now, human resources. That time it was personal office. I recruited
a lot of people.
A lot. What helped us in Bari was humility. We got it from our parents, to be humble, not to be proud, not to look down upon the other. That even the way I had my jobs, I still went back to Bari. I still went to sit in Mavis's house. From justice, I went to Manical Freight. I went straight into as a public relations officer. I left Manical Freight when I was already senior manager.
What was Manical Freight?
Manical Freight was the biggest freight company. So I was already in the managerial, senior managerial. As a pretty girl, Kambama,
yes.
Kambama, any man will not resist. Yeah, they would come for me, even in Anglo-American, and I would say no. Or I would say, since I'm somebody who's not scared.
We went to show na Christine Maivakwa. Tapa gate to upinda. President Mugabe was going in his car. Christine called, President, did you see my card? I sent you my card, your birthday card. Did you see it? You.
And Mugabe stopped.
Mugabe stopped and said, oh, I saw it, thank you. This one, she wants to talk to all the ministers.
How did it become that you became friends with the president at that time, in that period?
You see, what happened was, I was also doing this politics, and I was fast, you know what I mean? So I had to be known, and I would go in straight and greet him. And I didn't have those, this culture,
Secretary of Foreign Telephones.
Then Sunny was doing child survival. Then I started giving a free advice, a prayer. Then when I was pregnant, I used to enjoy going to tell her the Piara and all that. The whole thing is, you guys, what I can tell for both of you, you must follow your dream. And sometimes as parents would say, no, certain things. But at the same time, remember that we saw the sun before you.
Thank you for sharing that advice. You described what life was like for you in the 70s and 80s, and it felt like you were able to do things for yourselves, get jobs, and set up a life. I'm just wondering, now we are where we are, is this what you imagine Zimbabwe would be like for our generation?
For young people, it's terrible. It's terrible for you guys. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
In my time, the jobs were there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, it's very difficult. It's very difficult when I'm advising, when I'm saying to young people like you. Me, by nature, I'm very aggressive. I always said my heart is not in the kitchen because I didn't want kuvairirwa. History. I couldn't. With my friends, we used to laugh about it in Bari. Remember, Mavis? Me and Ninamun just when we come back as prayer warriors, so that right now, this interview would have been done while we're sitting in this house. You guys, you've got your own apartment, you've got all your cars parked outside my house doing this interview. What we would have loved. You guys will come, like this interview, imagine, would have been having it here in my garden, laughing and talking. And I would have even called some of the women who were senior to us in Bari, Wachembera, would be saying, oh, you, Angagadai, oh, you, and would be laughing.
Rungano, do you want to talk a little bit about the song that we played at the beginning of the episode?
So the song that we hear at the beginning of the episode is a song that's connected to Kichi. That's the drummer playing in that song is the father of her firstborn son, Temwani. She refers to him as Zondiwe, and his name is Jethro Shasha, a well-renowned drummer and musician in Zimbabwe. If you'd like to know more about him, his son Temwani wrote a very touching description and tribute to his father in the glossary.
Do you want to tell us more about the song we heard at the end of the episode?
So at the end of the episode, it's a love song, and it's like a tribute love song, and it's one of Christina Chima's favorite songs, and a song that she remembers from her heydays, as she calls them. And so we just wanted to do a full circle.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Ruvarangu translates into my flower. So
yeah,
it's a term of endearment, and
term of endearment, and he talks about your heart and so forth. But you can Google it, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the rest of the song if you hear it in its entirety.